So we can't just put stain on and then walk away because you'll destroy the floor. Hi, Dave Friedman, Hardwood Floor Finishing 101. In this video, we sand, stain, and finish a newly installed, unfinished red oak floor. We also sand, stain, and finish a section where it was patched in with old pieces. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to share with you a trade secret on how I darken the urethane between coats. So stick around and I'll show you how we did it. So we got the red oak floor here to do. It's unfinished, 3/4 thick. Putting a provincial stain on here. Job here, we have to transition this section here. So they did a renovation here and knocking out this wall, and then they had an area here that was exposed to the subfloor. So they had to move some of the board into this section. Now what we have to do is we have to edge these down. They're all bumpy now, they're not flat. We're going to edge this all the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit it with the 60 edger, make it all flat. So as you see right here, this is sitting proud to the old floor by about 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch, all the way along here. So I got to be careful, I don't want to hit any of this old floor here. I'm just going to sand this down. We're going to try to get it flush a little higher this, and then I'm going to go by hand and do this here, so I don't want to touch this at all. So when we're bringing this level down to this level, put some tape on the existing part of the floor. So when you hit the tape, you're not going to hit the floor underneath there. So now I've brought this part down here and it's perfectly flush, so I know I can't go beyond this point anymore here because it's just starting to remove the tape, but it's not going to remove the finish on the floor. tack the floor with the Bennett tack cloth. For this job, we'll be applying Varathane Provincial wood stain. So this floor we're staining with a provincial stain. Now, it's a mid to dark stain. It's not really that dark, but what you got to be careful for when the method I use here, if you watched my previous videos, you know how I do it. I apply it first with the applicator, the synthetic applicator, and then I remove the excess with this. You always have to remove the excess. You never just put stain on. Stain isn't paint. So we can't just put stain on and then walk away because you'll destroy the floor. You're either going to use a sponge mop or you're going to use rags to remove the excess. But what you got to be careful of, and you see when I go to remove, you see this line here. So you got to be careful when you go to remove that you put the edge of the sponge mop against the seam of the two planks. And as long as you do that, you won't see that line, right? You want to make this totally seamless, right? You don't want to see a big line there. So you just got to be careful. When you're ragging it on, you're just doing this and then removing it. But I don't really like that method anymore, getting my face right in there. I wear a respirator, but it's just not, I find this is a much more efficient way to do it. You don't use 1,000 rags trying to do it. So it's always a good idea to give it a couple of minutes to actually soak into the wood a bit. You just let it saturate there. I'm just going to let it sit for a second, a couple of minutes. Then I'm going to remove it with the sponge mop. See how it's looking so far. One of the challenges you'll find when you're staining a floor is the exiting, because you run out of space. It's easy enough to do all that, right? Because I can just, come over this way. But what happens when you get to this point where you can no longer do that? So what I do is I give myself about that much width, and then I apply about 1.5 feet. So you can see there at the back. Right? I apply that, then I remove it. And the reason I don't go too far is because if I have to reach over to there to blend out, I want to be close enough, right? So now it's all seamless here and it looks all nice and even. So now, I've applied that much there. You can see it's still saturating. And now I'll sponge mop it and then I'll blend it out and I'll show you what it looks like after. We're gonna take the sponge mop. Then you push away with the mop. You blend it out. So that's the result. So it's nice and clean and no ugly transitions. So we finished the staining, and we'll check back tomorrow. We apply the first coat. For this job we're using Fabulon Satin Urethane, and I've also added a bit of the Provincial stain in there just to darken up the tint a bit. I'll add a bit of stain in there just to make the floor a little darker. Always have a piece of rolled up tape available when you're staining because you'll always get lint, little hairs you'll need to pick up. It's a great little tool to have. So you can see the way the urethane looks when I've added the stain to it to darken it. Almost looks black, but when it applies, it obviously spreads out. I was just trying to match it up to the existing floor, and it just looked like it needed a little bit more of a darker tone to it, so I just added some of the stain into the urethane. And this is a common practice you can do. You're just trying to darken it up a little bit more than what it appears after your staining job. 220 grid screen the floor. At this point now we vacuumed and now we're going to tack the floor. I've provided links to everything I used in this video in the description below. If you found this video helpful, please hit like and subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more upcoming videos on how to sand, stain, and finish your hardwood or softwood floors. Dave out. Second coat applied. I'll be screen sanding, vacuuming, and tacking it, and then applying the third coat.